Some animals can't survive unless they take. They don't establish natural equilibriums. Some animals are parasitic. They drink the lifeblood of their hosts, infect whatever they touch, and spread like a virus. They're often right under our noses, camouflaged, convincing their hosts they're not harmful at all.
And every time I turn around, I'm being asked about Donald Trump.
He's crazy. He's a race-baiting, xenophobic, religious bigot. He's unfit for office.
And when their host is taken from them, they seek a new one.
I am all in. Keep it up, Donald.
Everything he said was true.
Parasites don't care if they feed off a good host.
I love him to death.
Or an evil one. Purpose: to feed. There's only one way to stop a parasite: deprive it of its host. The Lincoln Project is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Join Milwaukee Film virtually for the Minority Health Film Festival, presented by the Froedtert and the Medical College of Wisconsin Health Network, taking place September 10th through 24th. Watch 50 films plus conversations about the health and well-being of families, communities, and institutions. Festival passes are on sale now at mkefilm.org/MHFF. The Forum, exclusively on Facebook Live, Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. until 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, covering topics from local, national, and everything in between. It may not be what you expect to hear, but we will definitely give you what you need to know. That's The Forum, exclusively on Facebook Live. Call in 414-395-0484. There's liberal news, there's conservative news, and then there's the truth. Join us for the truth. Good morning, welcome to the program. Wednesday, right? September 9, 2020. So tomorrow, start of the football season, which is kind of weird because it seems like football came out of nowhere because there's no preseason. So whatever. Bucks lost last night, but I mean, what did you expect? So I guess we do have some semblance of sports, even though it's not exactly the same. Tomorrow also marks, I really am not sure how to describe it. Is it a milestone? Is it a bittersweet memory? So 2 years ago, tomorrow is when I officially retired from broadcast radio and had no intentions of ever returning to it. And I guess I really didn't return to it. For a minute I did. I thought I was going back to WNOV, and then the pandemic hit and I was like, no, thank you. But, I'm appreciative of you all and this format, but my time on broadcast radio is how a lot of you found out who the hell I was. And that is when some of you started to hate me. So I guess it's an interesting, turn of events the last 2 years have been. And so the last radio station I was at, they are no longer broadcasting in Milwaukee. They were Resistance Radio. Then they tried to be News Talk Radio. Then they were 101.7 FM. And then they were 1510 AM. They never found an identity. And when I went to WRRD when did I start? July of 2018, August, I don't even know. They were doomed then. And I don't know if they thought bringing me on would help them, but it was a radio station with no business plan at all. They thought they had one, but they did not. It was one of those things where Madison liberals, who are so incredibly detached from the city of Milwaukee, thought that they could come here and spread the liberal gospel to mostly African Americans, because that's what I believe their targeted audience was here. And they just did a miserable job of it. And they didn't quite understand how detached they were from Black people and Black culture in this city until they wasted a bunch of money on a radio venture. But I could write a book about the stuff that happened over there. And plus, nobody was sober. Everybody was high all the time. Say whatever you want about smoking marijuana. Okay, it's legal in half the country or whatever it is. You can't run a business when you're high. You can't. Try to manage a bar or manage a complicated bar restaurant operation when you're drunk all the time. You can't do it. So anyways, enough about that. Good morning, Mia. Ronald Gergen, good morning to you. Shepard Sin, good morning. Chris Wyken, good morning, Chris. Chris, you listened on the day that I didn't play your commercial. I play it every other day. And I got your background going on in the back. I love the backgrounds. Now I can go through all of my photographs. I have many photographs. And be like, oh, these can be virtual backgrounds. As I'm starting to get more comfortable with this, my creativity will begin to blossom. Speaking of creativity, guys, we have to have a talk today, very serious talk. There's something that's going to happen. And here's the thing. I want to be optimistic all the time, but I also want to be realistic, and I don't want to sell people false hope. False hope is, oh my God, guess what, everybody? I was driving around the city yesterday and all I saw were Joe Biden yard signs. Everyone's going to vote for Joe Biden. Don't do that. We are taking what we see and what we are exposed to and attempting to apply it to the whole, because the people that we talk to are never going to vote for Donald Trump, or they're never going to vote for a Republican. We then believe that everybody else, even the people that we don't talk to, are going to do the same thing. That sets yourself up for disappointment. And so what I'm going to try and do is get the hints and clues that we are getting from the Trump administration and Donald Trump himself and those that are supporting him, including just about every single person who is involved in administering and executing federal law, trying to take the subliminal clues and hints they're giving us and try to form a realistic picture. Because election night, no matter how you slice it, is going to be very, very tense. So I want to try and give some context early so we know how to prepare for what we may see. I have said that I don't think we should vote by mail. And it's not just for people who are native to Milwaukee or to Wisconsin. Anyone, everywhere. If you have the ability to vote in person, do so, because the problem is the inconsistency in how states count their votes. Some states can't even open the ballots to begin to verify signatures until the last polling location has closed. Imagine if there's 700, 800, 900,000 ballots that are returned in a county or in a state, and by their own laws, they cannot open those ballots until the last poll has closed. We're not going to know what that vote total is that night. There are going to be some states that aren't going to begin to process their ballots until the day of the election. Even if we're talking about tens of thousands of ballots, that's going to take an awful lot of time. So when we get our election returns that evening, we're not going to know a large percentage of the vote because those ballots have not been counted. And this is what I want us to be very aware of, because Trump has already telepathically communicated this thing called the red mirage. Some of you may have heard of it. This is what is going to happen. And so if I need to have a discussion about it every day to get more people out there in the cyber world or the real world, wherever you guys are, for you all to talk about it, then we'll be much more prepared when it happens. Rural voters and Republican voters, almost like wearing a mask seems to be political. I really wish it wasn't, but you can essentially tell somebody's political affiliation by whether they're wearing a mask or not. And people that think the coronavirus is a hoax, which it clearly is not a hoax, but you can deduct from that, from their actions, from their behavior, what their political affiliation is. Well, some of those same people that won't wear a mask, that think the coronavirus is a hoax, that the kids have to hurry up and go back to school because kids can't get the coronavirus, even though 70,000 of them have been diagnosed essentially since the start of school, but whatever. They're going to vote in person. When you vote in person on election day, that is the swiftest way to get your vote counted when the polls close. When votes come in by mail, they could come in the morning of the election. In some states, they may come in even after the election. But again, the lack of uniformity means that in places like California, they may give you an additional week or 2 weeks to receive your ballot to allow for postal delays. Do you think that Donald Trump is realistically going to allow that? He is not. The red mirage means this. Those people that vote in person on election day, right now, the majority of those people who are self-reporting that they're going to vote on election day, they're not messing with vote by mail, are Republicans and are going to vote for Donald Trump. Meaning, the vote totals that we get on election night are going to be heavily reflective of the people that voted that day. Mail-in ballots won't be counted, they won't be processed, in some cases up to 2 weeks later. And these are majority Joe Biden supporters. We talked about that yesterday. So if the Democrats and the Joe Biden supporters are not going to have their ballots counted until some arbitrary date after the election, long after the polls are closed, because it takes longer to process a mail-in ballot, Donald Trump will make sure that there's no more vote counting after a particular date. That is a certainty. So the first votes that come in are going to show him winning, and he's going to stop the vote count. Now, let me say this. Not going to tell you not to vote by mail. But if you want your vote counted on election night, because if your mail-in ballot doesn't arrive until late, I mean, legally in your state, they still can count it, they still can process it. But depending upon your city and your state, depending upon the political behavior of the place in which you live, like I don't think that they're going to allow Milwaukee's votes to be counted for 2 or 3 weeks after the election because of mail delays. That's the whole reason why they're delaying the mail. So that the red mirage will show the people that voted in person on election day, their votes are going to be counted first. And that very well may show Donald Trump having the lead. And Donald Trump is not going to allow votes to continue to get counted that can chip away at his lead. Remember, he doesn't need to win the popular vote. He just needs to win the Electoral College. Electoral College states, deep red states, states in the South, both Dakotas, Kansas, Nebraska, your Utahs, your Montanas, those are going to be same day voters that are going to vote overwhelmingly. Even with all the things the country is going through, those states are going to vote overwhelmingly for Trump, and it's going to give him an early lead before the mail-in votes are counted. So we're going to have to deal with that. And the country is going to be in an uproar because then you're going to have the legal challenges. Donald Trump wants a legal challenge. He wants this to go to court. Do you know how many victories Donald Trump has had in court? The reason why we still haven't seen his taxes 4 years later is because he keeps winning in court. He keeps getting a delay. He keeps getting a stay. He keeps getting another jurisdiction. If the presidential election of 2020 comes down to a court decision, we are going to lose. I'm telling you this now so you're not shocked by it later. And I assure you, I will not say I told you so, but I will point to one of these broadcasts and say, well, the broadcast is going to say, I told you so. Get a little more information on this. The USA Today did a story about the Red Mirage about a week ago, and I don't know if it really got all that much attention. So in classic Sherwin fashion, we're going to give it some attention right now. In battleground states that will decide the next presidential election, Democrats have embraced a turnout strategy tailored for the COVID-19 pandemic, urging supporters to request mail ballots and return them right away. But before mail voting kicks off on Friday, like in 2 days, Friday in North Carolina, some party operatives warned that a heavy reliance on mail ballots could carry risks and encourage people who are healthy to consider voting in person. Even if, and I keep receiving these things, you guys keep getting these things in the mail. Hi, something is in here, your ballot, your request for, I don't know what it is, but I keep getting them. I don't like that. Whoever you are, stop sending those things to me that are a ballot request form. My ballot is not in them, but it's like a request form and they keep sending them to me. So please, whoever you are, stop sending me those. That's number one. And number two, hey, Spectrum Cable, please stop sending sales reps to knock on my door and try to get me to sign up for cable. This is not 1982. I do not want a door-to-door salesperson selling me cable. Please stop. In some states, North Carolina is an example, they're going to start getting their ballots by early next week. Those Democratic voters, or whatever, maybe Republican voters too, are going to fill their ballots out, right? They're still not going to get counted until election day. And then that's going to take, I can't tell you how long the process, because if people are starting to receive their ballots, or they will be receiving their ballots this Friday, then you're going to have folks in North Carolina voting by mail for 2 full months. That could be 1 million or more ballots that cannot get processed until election day, which means there is a risk that a large share of those ballots never get counted, because Trump is going to stop the counting of the ballots, because if he's playing the numbers game, he isn't, but those that want him to stay in power are playing the numbers game. They know that the longer votes are counted after election day, the larger amount of mail-in ballots those are going to be. The larger number of mail-in ballots are going to come from people who are taking the pandemic seriously, and their political affiliation is probably Democrat. Polling shows Democratic nominee Joe Biden with a decisive mail-in voting advantage. The former vice president's supporters are twice as likely to vote by mail than those of Donald Trump. Democrats worry that misleading signals could emerge on election night if Trump builds an initial lead with in-person votes, even if he lags Biden on mail-in ballots, which are going to take longer to count. They fear Trump, who claims mail-in voting is rife with fraud, might try to cast doubt on the validity of uncounted mail-in ballots, setting the stage for chaos and lengthy legal battles in the aftermath of the election. And so you can have states and cities where they cannot legally start opening their ballots and verifying signatures until after the last poll has closed. And then there's going to be the photographs, because there will be election inspectors of both political parties all over the place, dispatched all over the country to make sure these votes are counted. And what you're going to see is stacks and stacks and stacks, and piles and piles and piles, and bins and bins and bins of uncounted ballots. And that in and of itself, this is going to be after the election now. They're going to say, oh, well, look here in Chickasaw County, we hear all the ballots that we still have yet to open and to verify and to count. That's going to appear fraudulent. That is going to give more momentum to people that are going to say, you know what, the election was 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days ago. We know you don't have the manpower and the woman power to count all these votes. That's too late. The election is over. They're going to say it's over now. The ballots that were already cast are the ones that are going to count, and Trump is going to win again. Now, with that scenario, Mia Cockcroft says also, please complete your 2020 census. You know what? I'm so sick of y'all in the census. I'm so tired. I just can't. You guys, you can support or go to joebiden.com for yard signs. Yeah, I guess the more yard signs you have, the more confidence you give people that Joe Biden is going to win. But with the census, haven't we made our case with the census? Like, we tried to give as many details as we possibly can about why it's important, because all it is you're requesting your money to come back to your community for things that you need. And if we don't fill out the census in the numbers in which we should, we could lose representation. We've lost 2 aldermanic seats in the city of Milwaukee in the last 20 years, meaning there are 2 less people representing the people of the city of Milwaukee. And I would argue that the people in the city of Milwaukee need more representation, not less. There's also federal funding for schools. Are we always talking about how education is underfunded? Didn't we just have a referendum on our April ballot giving, I don't know how many millions of dollars to MPS because we need more money? The census and the amount of people that live in a particular census tract in a city, in a town, whatever, can receive more resources. St. Joseph's Hospital, which is a hospital in which a neighborhood is named for, is on life support. If people in the neighborhood of St. Joseph's Hospital in the north side of the city of Milwaukee don't fill out the census, then there will not be the need for additional federal funding to keep that hospital afloat. And all it's going to mean is that the city of Milwaukee, once again, is going to have to raise taxes. They're going to have to raise taxes anyway, because reduced revenue has been flowing into government because people are not working. You're not working, you're not spending, you're not paying taxes, but government is still really expensive to run. Probably even more expensive to run because we had to shift into emergency pandemic mode, and there just aren't the same resources coming in. So us not filling out the census plus reduced tax revenue going into local and county governments, we're going to be in a serious crunch here. And we're always complaining about how high of a tax state Wisconsin is, or Milwaukee, I'd say, is probably higher tax than some surrounding areas. I know that, in north and western suburbs, property taxes are pennies on the dollar compared to what they are here. But we have a deeper need for more programs to help folks in this city. So if you don't fill out the census, what do you want me to do? But I get confidence with the numbers of the census, going up, participation levels going up, because I liken census participation to voter turnout. Right now, or last I checked, it was like 59.7% city of Milwaukee census participation. Probably what voter turnout is going to be. Voter turnout probably will not reach 70%. If it does, that's a miracle. But I doubt it. Cassandra D says good morning. How are you guys gonna vote? Are you gonna vote in person? Midtown opens up on October 20th. It is the highest performing early voting location in the city of Milwaukee. It does open October 20th. We don't know the hours yet unless they posted the hours today, but that is the first day in which you can vote in person, which I'm encouraging people to do, because then your vote will get counted on election night. So when we're getting the vote totals from certain states and you're watching CNN or MSNBC or wherever you're going to be watching the totals, that's going to be reflective of people that voted either absentee in person or voted on election day proper. I just want to make sure that we know what we're getting into. And I get it, there's risk. But also, we have been going out in public. Have we not? You guys have not just been in the house since March 16th, have you? I'd imagine you've gone to the store, you've gone to see friends or family members, or some of you rebellious folks have even gone out to eat or even had drinks at a bar. If you've done any of those things, then just go vote in person. Alden Higgins. Good morning, Alden. He says, early voting looks to be the way for me. I was leaning absentee, but after your breakdown, I'm voting early. It's a matter of when you want your vote counted. I want my vote counted before Trump says stop counting the votes. He wants this to go to court. He is setting up the 2020 presidential election to not be decided by you, the people, because the popular vote he doesn't need, he's not going to get. He already is telling you he doesn't want the popular vote. He doesn't need it. He's working on another strategy, because if you're trying to get the popular vote, why would you disrespect veterans? If you want the popular vote, why would you give praise to Kyle Rittenhouse, who killed 2 people with an illegal firearm he carried across state lines? That's not trying to get popular vote stuff. If you want to get the popular vote, you know what you say? You say stuff like, oh, we want to make sure that health insurance is affordable. We're going to make sure that your Social Security doesn't run out of money in 3 years. He's not saying any of that because he doesn't want the popular vote. He is working another strategy. In 2016, whether he used that strategy intentionally or not, he won with the Electoral College, which all of a sudden made everybody hate the Electoral College. But it's weird because the same Electoral College that gave Donald Trump his victory gave Barack Obama 2 victories. So you don't hate the Electoral College that much. You just hate it when your candidate loses, that's all. But now he's trying to have this battle in the courts. And this has probably been political architecture amongst the Trump people whose names we don't know, who are not, in front of TV cameras spouting off his nonsense on his behalf. Not them, but the ones who we don't see. The ones who do have a vested interest in him getting reelected, and is to try and get as many federal judges on the bench, including on the U.S. Supreme Court. Even in 2016, when Barack Obama selected Merrick Garland, remember that? Had Merrick Garland got on the U.S. Supreme Court, the decision that this court will make on the 2020 election could have been shifted. They reserved that spot for Donald Trump's inevitable victory in 2016 for this moment, so that they have enough allies in in federal district courts in states and on the US Supreme Court, so that if a presidential election comes down to the courts, which it has before, 2020 or the year 2000 is the year that I know for an absolute fact it did. There could have been other years in the past where a presidential election was decided by the US Supreme Court. That's why conservatives stack the courts and Democrats are left holding the bag. D. Robinson says to Judy, yep, Judy, that's been my strategy all year. Dustin Hegwood, good morning, Dustin. Did we shore up cybersecurity? Do we know machines won't be tampered with? No and no. There was a bill that, oh boy, Democrats have been working on a bunch of cybersecurity bills, because what we saw in 2016 is a number of states, including Wisconsin, noticed intrusions. We don't know who they were from, or they didn't tell us who they were from. We probably know who they were from, of attempted hacks and attacks on the software. And I think like 11 or 12 states, and Wisconsin was one of them. Someone was trying to manipulate, because we transmit our vote totals via the internet. And the internet is a huge vulnerability in and of itself, but it can be secure. And so there was a need for additional cybersecurity, this based upon what we saw in 2016. By 2016, the election results, at least from what I have read and researched and what information has been made public, wasn't decided by overturned votes. It was by an influence machine that was perpetuated by Russia. And for those that still ask the stupid question, well, Russia didn't tell me how to vote. That's ridiculous. How could another country tell me how to vote? Just like another country can plan a Trump rally and create a group on Facebook and say there's a date and a time and a city and a location of a Trump rally, and nobody from America had anything to do with creating that event on Facebook, and tens of thousands of people show up. That's how. Because they can feed you information that you are more likely to believe, and that's how you get influence. It's almost like you can sit here and say, how in the world does Coca-Cola, they don't tell me what soda to buy, as you lift up a Coca-Cola and drink it. We can be influenced. So as far as the additional cybersecurity that we need, you guys remember that they were blocking, the Republicans were blocking these bills to shore up cybersecurity. They want holes in the system. The whole theme of how Republicans win is based on cheating, because they know they're falling out of favor. They're falling out of favor with the changing demographics of America. And they're not even trying to hide that. They're not trying to be more encompassing. They're not trying to be more inclusive. When they need to embrace a particular issue, they will. So Donald Trump's idea of criminal justice reform is find a black or two, put them in a commercial, find a black or two, and give them a full pardon. That's it. He does it on the micro level, so he has something to point to. But they know that their policies are catering to the worst elements in American society, the element that we tried to extinguish during the Civil War, which has been kept alive through tradition and through monuments and through segregation. It has been kept alive. Now, Trump can completely and overtly represent that segment of America. And it's getting even crazier. Now it's QAnon crazy. Donald Trump is an angel that's been put here to stop liberal pedophile Satanists that are trying to take over the world. He is catering to that, because when you don't want the popular vote, when you don't need popular support, because you're using other mechanisms to get into power, and he's doing this right in front of our faces. And you wonder how a country like this that prides itself on democracy can become fascist, because they are covertly working behind the scenes and putting judges in place that can. Now we're talking about the Constitution here. Now we're talking about how can we finagle an amendment that says the presidents can only serve 2 terms, because hasn't he been saying, I'm going to serve forever? Oh, it'd be nice. 12 more years he's even been caught chanting. He's not kidding. I saw an interview with his fixer, Michael Cohen, who got I don't know how many years in federal prison, who is strangely serving his time at home and home confinement, but he's doing a lot of interviews. Michael Cohen is like, Donald Trump has no sense of humor. And of all the things that were said by Michael Cohen, Donald Trump's former fixer, That one got me because he doesn't. When has Donald Trump ever laughed or told a joke? Obama used to joke all the time. In fact, oh, you guys, you just reminded me. I got Obama jokes. Hang on, let me see. I love being able to play things. Obama. Where's an Obama joke? Let me see.
Minister, my lords and members of the House of Commons, I have known few greater honors than the opportunity to address the Mother of Parliaments at Westminster Hall. I am told that the last three speakers here have been the Pope, Her Majesty the Queen, and Nelson Mandela, which is either a very high bar or the beginning of a very funny joke.
See? All right, that's enough laughing. Obama had a sense of humor. Donald Trump has no sense of humor. So when he's saying these things, oh, it'd be nice to be president for life or 12 more years or be president like Vladimir Putin or something like in China, they are rigging the courts. So something like that. It's still a long shot, but isn't Donald Trump serving a full 4 years? Him getting elected was a long shot, and him getting reelected, we would think was a long shot as well. But then you have this. Okay, hold on, one more Obama.
And then to know that Reverend Al Green was here. I'm so in love with you.
Trump is an idiot because he can't sing like Al Green.
Those guys didn't think I would do it. I told
those guys I would do it. Anyways, Trump could lose the election November 4th. Let's say he loses. He can resign the presidency. Because at the end of the day, I want him to be brought to justice, because someone like you or me, we'd be brought to justice, just like the people that were supporting him and enabling him were brought to justice. Just like Robert Mueller told us that there are a number of things that Donald Trump can be prosecuted for in state courts. And so ultimately, I think it shows future generations that you cannot run roughshod over our republic, over the democracy, over the wishes of voters, and be president and get away with it. So ultimately, wouldn't that be the end result, the goal for Donald Trump to be brought to justice to face his crimes? He can lose a presidential election. So he's still president until January 20th at 11:59 a.m. So even after he loses, assuming he loses, he's still president. He can resign. Mike Pence will be sworn in as the 46th president of the United States. Mike Pence can pardon Donald Trump. Now, he can't pardon him for state offenses, but for federal, and he would just litigate whatever state offenses that are out there pending. But the federal crime of obstruction of justice, Donald Trump very well could be issued a pardon. And we know how low the threshold is for issuing a pardon. Trump has issued pardons with a tweet. Old crazy Joe Arpaio, the racist sheriff down in Maricopa County, Arizona, who we believe Sheriff David Clark, former Milwaukee County Sheriff, got his MO from. He stole the mojo from Joe Arpaio. Got pardoned by Donald Trump. And then Joe Arpaio, because he got pardoned, because he was convicted of a felony. Or he was convicted, but he had not yet been sentenced. Donald Trump pardoned Joe Arpaio so fast that they didn't even sentence him because he was already pardoned. Mike Pence is there. And it seems like Mike Pence is playing that role. He's the fail-safe. He's the stopgap between Donald Trump and actually facing federal charges. Trump can lose the election, resign, and Mike Pence will pardon him. And then that's it. Even at the end, if that happened, right? And we think that would be some tremendous victory that, wow, Trump lost the election, yay. Trump had to resign in shame, yay. He goes away forever. Donald Trump still wins in that scenario because he just got away with it. Good morning, Gail. L. Cocroft. Trump has appointed over 250 permanent federal judges to the appellate courts. We are F. You know what, Mia? It might be more like, I heard 400. And the appellate court, like, that's where the power is. So in the state of Wisconsin, Joanne Kloppenburg, she ran for state Supreme Court. I think she lost to David Prosser. That election was a mess. That was an election where Kathy Nicholas, who was the election clerk in Waukesha County, but Kathy Nicholas also used to work for David Prosser a long time ago. So Joanne Kloppenburg won the election. She's a liberal to the Wisconsin State Supreme Court. She won. 10-year term. We'd have if a handful of things had gone a different direction, we would have a liberal state Supreme Court in Wisconsin. If there wasn't bad campaign management and bad advice given to other liberal candidates, and had Joanne Kloppenburg's victory been solidified, you wouldn't have Foxconn right now. You wouldn't have it. Scott Walker would not have been able to do the things that he did because the courts, which is where the power is, and really where the power is at the appellate court, this would be a totally different state. It'd be a totally different political climate. We wouldn't be a battleground state, because what the courts can do is they can ultimately shape political sentiment by saying what is and what is not acceptable by Democrats and Republicans. And what a conservative court does is it says, even in the skewed, almost QAnon, conspiracy theory, paranoid, schizophrenic, myopic, racist view of Republicans, they can declare that constitutional. That's how powerful the courts are. Let me tell you how powerful the appellate courts are. And Democrats don't even talk about this. It's not even in our lexicon of politics. Somebody's accused of a crime and it was a bad trial and bad evidence, but you get sentenced anyway. Just a terrible trial. Should have been a mistrial, but it wasn't. The appellate court is the one that goes back and looks at your conviction and overturns it. That's where you get your second chances, in the appellate court. So it's really the appellate courts that can make decisions and make judgments that can go contrary to what other courts have already decided. So who's on the appellate court is extremely important. Good morning, Kia JS. Josh Call is Kloppenberg's son. Josh Call is Peg Lautenschlager. She passed away. She got cancer. I love Peg. She was great. She was a former state attorney general. In fact, Jim Doyle was attorney general from 1990 until he ran for governor and won in 2002. And then Peg Lautenschlager was right? Am I getting that right? She was state attorney general, I think. But close, Mia. D. Robinson, can you imagine all the irreversible things he will do after losing? It's going to be bad because there are some really nice, decent, fair people in this world. And in Wisconsin, in Milwaukee, and I know because some of these people are my friends and my family. And the fact that Donald Trump is going to do everything he can, including cheat, including not providing the funding so we have cybersecurity over our elections, including welcoming the influence of foreign governments. Do you know where this whole challenge mail-in ballots came from? Do you guys have any idea where this came from? Trump wasn't saying this in 2016. It just came out of nowhere, didn't it? No, it didn't. The Russian influence machine, Russia, they started a media outlet and people thought it was an American journalism outlet. And they hired American journalists, and it was disguised as an ultra-left, progressive media outlet. I can't remember the name of it, but I tried to post the website for you all to see how authentic some of these Russian-influenced websites and news sites look. It looked like the real deal. They actually hired and paid salaries to American journalists, and the whole point of this website, I can't remember what it was called. I tried to post the link, and Facebook took it down. What was the name of? It's going to drive me nuts. If you Google Russian influenced media outlet that hired and paid American journalists, but it was designed to be ultra liberal and progressive, like more in the flavor of a Bernie Sanders supporter, just to be opposition to Joe Biden. So it wasn't anything pro-Trump. It was very much American leftist, and it was trying to drum up, feelings and emotions against Bernie Sanders supporters that just cannot stomach voting for Joe Biden. And it got shut down. We found out that it was a Russian influenced newspaper, and they even put their money where their mouth was, and they paid American progressive journalists. And one of the journalists actually did an interview. Josh Call is Joanne Klein. I read that already. Lisa Miller, good morning to you. Alden Higgins says she was. They're going to continue to shape Donald Trump's campaign promises. The whole challenge to mail-in votes came from Russia. They started that. And then Donald Trump has now taken it and made it a part of his campaign. Do you see how this is working? And this is not, I wish I could say that this was some big conspiracy. He's doing it in plain sight. Russia started with some of their fake trolls and their fake accounts and fake profiles, which still exist. Facebook cannot shut down the number of fake profiles. They can't. It's too many of them. But it was started by them. Challenge mail-in ballots. Don't vote by mail. It's going to be a bunch of voter fraud. And then Donald Trump is now using that. And so Russia is now taking the lead. Because they met in Trump Tower with Russian operatives back in 2016. Please don't think for a moment that Donald Trump has severed his ties with Russia. He has this deep affinity and affection for Vladimir Putin and for Kim Jong-un. That's what Donald Trump wants to be. And we have to realize that. I think there's some part of us as Americans that just don't want to believe he could be that bad. And I was one of those people. I was like, there's no way. And so when Dave Chappelle, remember when Dave Chappelle got his butt handed to him because he did an SNL special. And I can't wait for Saturday Night Live to come back. Oh, Saturday Night Live has been my saving grace through all of this. And when they went off the air, when their season ended, I got a little sad, but they'll be back soon. Their fall season should probably start in the next few weeks. So after Trump won in 2016, the producers of Saturday Night Live asked the question of who should talk to America? Who should open up this new season of SNL? Who does America want to hear from after Hillary Clinton's 2016 defeat? And I think they made a wise choice. And Dave Chappelle, who is an icon in his own right, I'm going to tell you about Dave Chappelle. Anytime he comes anywhere near Milwaukee, I'm getting tickets. I'll get tickets. Your tickets get mailed to you. I might be in your mailbox. I'll take them Dave Chappelle tickets from you. But his political commentary on race is spectacular. But a lot of the best Black comedians have had stellar commentary on race. Richard Pryor, incredible commentary on race. Chris Rock is a sociologist that happens to be funny. Because when we talk about race as Black people, it gets boring and people don't listen and they tune us out and we always sound like we're complaining and we talk about racism and white supremacy. But if you make people laugh while you are giving them messages on what race is, then it has a whole nother, more powerful type of impact. And so Dave Chappelle is one of those people. But when he said, you know what, I'm going to give Donald Trump a chance and I hope he gives us a chance too, I was like, fair enough. I don't know how much, Dave probably didn't lose sponsorships because it's a little bit different with Black comedians and Black actors. Like we don't cancel one another. That's like a white people thing. Like white people cancel a bunch of stuff. We give a lot of our folks a pass. Trust me, I know, because I've said some outrageous things over the years. And, I've gotten a few, inboxes and I got a couple of letters where people were mad at me and disagreed with me, but I've never been canceled. Right? But when he said that, oh my God, people had an absolute fit. But I have to admit, to some extent, I felt the same way. I was like, there's no way it's going to be that bad because I knew we had these other these other fail-safes. So we got Congress, we got a handful of courts. We still have all the people that Barack Obama appointed to the federal bench, and Barack Obama appointed a lot of people. He had a whole bunch of recess appointments. I thought that there were these, these triggers, these trips. If Donald Trump does this, then this thing right here goes into action, or this next thing goes into effect. All of that is fake. I thought that when you impeach a president, real bad stuff happens. I was like, oh, snap, that's the worst thing that can happen. In fact, Richard Nixon was so afraid of impeachment, he quit because he didn't want to go through the impeachment. Donald Trump went through the impeachment and nothing happened. Paul Mooney, thank you, Mia. Oh, Paul Mooney is the best. Whenever you can make white people laugh and also give them a perspective on race, comedians are the best. You know what? George Carlin, while he's not black, also had a really profound set of, comedic epithets, I'm going to call them, on the issue of race. Very important. Dave Boxhorn, I saw Chappelle the last time he was in Milwaukee. Fabulous. So did I. He was here on March 11th because that was the last thing I did in public before the world shut down. My birthday is March 6th. I bought myself some tickets to Dave Chappelle, went to go see Dave Chappelle on March 11th, and then a week later, the whole world was shut down. Ant Esky, RT, Russian TV. Yes, it is. I have Sling TV because I don't have cable because screw cable is too expensive and it's just stupid. But they have a news network, and it looks like American journalism. But there's a particular website. Oh my God, you guys gotta Google. When I Google, I don't know what happens to my broadcast. I'm already walking on eggshells with this broadcast anyway, so I'm afraid if I push a button that everything might go blank. But no, it was a Russian influenced website designed to be progressive, to cater to Bernie Sanders style democratic socialists to discredit Joe Biden. And they actually hired American journalists and paid them to tote this progressive line to discredit Joe Biden. And so even if you post the link from the website, Facebook they put that shield up, that mask. Oh, this is fake news. It's got the eyeball with a little slash through it. You can't see this. I also would like to talk about a coronavirus vaccine. Are you guys gonna take the coronavirus vaccine? I'm nervous when I bring that up because there are anti-vaxxers amongst us, and I don't want to get into that debate. Having a conversation about anti-vaxxers is as polarizing as having a conversation about the N-word, very polarizing, about gays and gay marriage. Still to this day, you wouldn't think it would be so polarizing. It totally is. But so I don't engage in the paranoia of, oh, they're trying to kill us with the vaccine. I don't believe that, because there are so many other ways in which you can kill people. So the thing about the coronavirus vaccine, there's a race to whoever is gonna get it. That's Nobel Peace Prize shit. You understand? If you have the patent for the COVID-19 vaccine, you are going to be able to sell that to governments forever. It'll be a part of the buffet of vaccines that we already get. And if you have the patent to that, you will rule the world. So I believe that the research and the science that is racing toward a vaccine for the coronavirus is not sinister. Now, the fact that it may happen or it may come during the Trump administration is why a lot of people won't trust it, plus the cynicism of people that they already have the cynicism about vaccines anyway. But what really gets me is you got people that will vaccinate their dogs but won't vaccinate their kids. I just can't with you guys. If you want to try and kill people, you don't do it with a vaccine because somebody wants to make the fortunes. Billions and billions of dollars are going to be made and given to the company that comes up with a coronavirus vaccine. Their research is going to be funded for the next 50 years because they come up with this one thing. They're going to get a Nobel Peace Prize. They're going to have government contracts. So I don't think they're trying to kill us with a vaccine. But again, maybe they are, who knows? You want to kill people? Put fast food restaurants in their neighborhoods. Make fresh food and fresh produce unaffordable and unavailable. That's how you kill people. It's amazing how you see people just eat the worst food whatsoever, talking about, I'm not going to take a virus, num, 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 Popeye's chicken sandwich, Big Mac, Burger King, num, 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 because the virus don't kill me. That's the government wanting to kill you. Not going to do that. I could have so many other conversations about this. Militant Black people, Black Panther people who, I love you guys, but you really want to be militant? You really want to strike back? Grow your own food and stop eating dairy. You want to bankrupt white people? You want to bankrupt white people that are farming on stolen land that we as Black people could never have access to, that they got for free, and then they got land grant colleges, universities, including the Big Ten universities, and any university with an A and an M. Those were colleges that were funded by the federal government to teach white people, European peasants, how to farm on land they got for free, and Black people got nothing. So you want to be Black and militant? Stop buying milk and eggs and cheese. Because dairy farmers are 95% white. You guys didn't know that. Farming on stolen land, but that's a whole nother thing. Y'all ain't ready for that level of militarism. Grow your own food in your backyard. You know what I made yesterday? I made a pizza yesterday. I made a pizza with sauce made from heirloom tomatoes from my parents' garden. That's a Black farm in my parents' backyard. And I even put the heirloom tomatoes on the pizza. I mean, I bought the other stuff, but whole nother story. David Boxhorn, you'd be surprised how much food can be grown on the city lot. Oh, I'm not surprised at all because I've seen it. I've seen it. Isn't that crazy though? When we go to the grocery store, we're buying produce because you're supposed to eat very, very healthy. And if you treat food like medicine, it's usually a worthwhile investment, because eating fresh food is extremely expensive, because you can't buy 3 months worth of cucumbers unless you can them, right? It's expensive to keep buying fresh produce because it only lasts for so long and only has a certain shelf life, because it keeps you going to the grocery store. But ultimately, investing in eating healthy and exercising means less money you're going to spend on hospital visits and on medication down the road. So it's usually a worthwhile investment. But when we are eating healthy, we are supporting farming and agriculture on land that was stolen, that Black people never had access to. And because the land was stolen from us and we couldn't produce from it nor profit from it, it has kept us in poverty while we are spending our money on the fruits from that land that was stolen from us and our Native American brothers and sisters. It's deep, and that's just scratching the surface. Mia says, yes, yes, to our own gardens. L.A. Thomas says, no, not peasants. Must have missed the joke there. Tammy Reed says, really? People vaccinate their pets, but not their kids? Scary. Good morning, by the way. Hell yeah, they vaccinate. Oh my God, they'll get their dogs vaccinated. Oh my God, Fido's got to get the shots. But Mason, spelled with a Y, I'm not going to vaccinate Mason because they're just, and you got kids that have to stay home from school because the parents won't vaccinate them. Oh, it's nuts. But what time is it? Oh, 5 minutes. I got a coronavirus story here. So they're trying to rush one. And Trump has said that he said there's going to be a vaccine before a very special day. You know what day that is. So he wants to show the world that he came up with a coronavirus vaccine before the election, which the clinical trials part is the thing that you cannot rush. It usually takes years to get a vaccine because you need a certain number of people have to take whatever this first couple of formulas is. And then you got to give a placebo, right? So you give somebody a fake vaccine and you give them the real vaccine and you send them off into the real world and you see what their rates of infection are. Because if the rates of infection are higher for the one that got the placebo and lower for the ones that got the coronavirus vaccine, then you may have something. But then you have to see how long does the person who got the vaccine stay healthy? And are there going to be side effects? Sometimes the side effects are not known for a very long time. So you need tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people to participate in these clinical trials to see how long, if the side effect, are there going to be any side effects? When do they come? And do they stay immune? And for how long do they stay immune? You can't rush that. And if it doesn't show that 50% of the people who take the coronavirus vaccine are protected, then the vaccine doesn't work. And you may not know that part for years. So it takes a considerable amount of time because you have to see what kind of an effect it's going to have. And it's not even the effect it has on healthy people, because the immune system in the human body is just unexplainable how remarkable and fantastic it is. But it's on sick people. Can you give a coronavirus vaccine? When we talk about the most vulnerable people that have the pre-existing conditions and have comorbidities, can you give safely a coronavirus vaccine to someone who has heart disease, is recovering from cancer, they've had chemotherapy, they've got other pre-existing conditions, they've had a stroke, they have high blood pressure? Can you give it to that person? Because those are the ones who are more likely to die from the coronavirus. So if the vaccine makes people with comorbidities more sick, you can't use it. You got to throw the whole damn thing away. It's not about healthy people, because healthy people, and I hate to have to say this, some healthy people, and it also depends on two things: how healthy you are to start with. So the fewer number of comorbidities that you have, and children sometimes have lesser comorbidities. That's why they don't get nearly as sick, or sometimes they don't show any symptoms of the coronavirus because they don't have as many comorbidities as their 50, 60, 70-year-old parents, grandparents, etc. It's very, very important. Do you have pre-existing, conditions, comorbidities? And here's the other thing. They have found that if you have a history of getting vaccines, you got your measles, your mumps, your rubella, you got your, what are the smallpox vaccines, whatever the tetanus vaccines. So all of the vaccines that we are supposed to get on a particular schedule has created a particular type of immunity in your body that does lessen the likelihood that you will die from the coronavirus. How ironic is that? So anti-vaxxers, even though they may not have many comorbidities, are more vulnerable from getting the severe symptoms of the coronavirus because they don't have the vaccines that they were supposed to get on schedule. It's amazing how we all of a sudden trust doctors when somebody gets diagnosed with, cancer. They want the best doctors, don't they? They want the best scientists. They want the best cancer treatment. But when it comes to everything else, when it comes to a vaccine, I don't trust that science. Denise Jones, we need to grow our own food. It is delicious food. Learn to harvest and store in the freezer. Go to farmers markets and start putting away fresh vegetables. You said the joke, European peasant. Oh, yeah. It's a whole, I don't want to call it a conspiracy because we only call things conspiracy because we don't know the history of how these things came to be. But I don't really believe in a conspiracy. All right, guys. Have we done enough today? Well, I got this. Do I read the story or do I post it? Why an approved coronavirus vaccine may not end the pandemic quickly. I don't want to read that. I'll post the article. I already explained it, so I don't need an article to tell me what you guys already know. Appreciate you guys hanging out with me this morning. So look here now. Starting next Monday, we're migrating this whole thing. Whatever you call this is different every day. It's going to be on YouTube. We're going to be native to YouTube. So you go to our YouTube channel, theforum2.com. Subscribe. And then every day, Monday through Friday, from 9 a.m. until 10 a.m., that is where we will be interacting. You can chat. You can still do the same features as you can on Facebook. I will share the link on Facebook starting on Monday, but your comments there might be second-class citizenship comments because we're going to move this thing over to YouTube because Facebook is it's just not the place for this. Hey, Lena Taylor, I'm seeing you as I'm about to log off. Thank you, Mia. Appreciate your support and everybody else. Appreciate you guys. Go to theforum2.com and that's where you can upload stuff and there's like sponsors and a whole bunch of stuff on there. And theforum2.com. We got an Instagram. I got a whole bunch of stuff. Thanks, guys. Have yourselves one of those wonderful days. And as always, we'll see you tomorrow.